Okay, hello everyone. Today we will see a lesson, a question of trust. And here the central idea is that cheats also expect honesty in their profession. And on the same mission, a rob of a home safe, two experienced thieves and burglars come face to face, and they both went to great lengths to ensure that the theft would go off without a hitch. So let's see the explanation. See here, two questions are there. What does Horace Denby like to collect, and why does he steal every year? So in the lesson, we will find everyone thought that Horace Denby was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy except for attacks of hay fever in summer. He made locks and was successful enough at his business to have two helpers. Yes, Horace Denby was a good and respectable, but not completely honest. 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in prison library, and he loved rare, expensive books, so he robbed a safe year every year. And each year he planned carefully just what he would do, stole enough to last for 12 months, and secretly bought the books he loved through an agent. Now, walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. For 2 weeks he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange, looking the two servants looking at its room, its electric wiring, its paths, and its garden. This afternoon, the two servants who remained in the Grange while the family was in London had gone to the movies. Horace saw them go, and he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. He came out from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. So here, citizen, that is legally recognized subject or a national of a state. Housekeeper is the person who employed to manage a household. Hay fever is an allergy caused by pollen or dust in which the mucous membrane of the eye and nose are inflamed, causing running of the nose and watery eyes. And safe is a strong fireproof cabinet that is with a complex lock. Grange is a country house with farm building attached. So here Horace Denby was a 50 years old man and was unmarried and lived in with his housekeeper, and the housekeeper used to worry about his health, although he was fit and fine, but used to have hay fever attacks in summer. And he used to make locks and used to earn profit that was enough for him to hire two helpers for his work. And everybody used to think that he was a good and honest citizen, but nobody knew that he had gone to jail about 15 years ago and served a sentence in the prison library. And he got his love for rare and expensive books for there. And every year he used to steal money that would last him for a year. With the rest of the money, he used to buy books through a secret agent. And this year, during the summer of July, he was sure that he would steal as easily without getting caught. And he used to do every other summer. And he studied the house for over 2 weeks, studying the smallest details such as electric wiring, paths, and garden area. That specific day, the servants who were supposed to stay back on the days when the family went to London went out for a movie, and Horace saw them leaving and was very happy instead of being worried about the tickle in his nose due to hay fever. And he then left with a bag that had his tools. So let's move to the next para. There were about £15,000 worth of jewels in the Grange safe. If he sold them one by one, he expected to get at least 5,000, enough to make him happy for another year. There were three very interesting books coming up for sale in the autumn. Now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside, and he put on a pair of gloves, took the key, and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. A small dog was lying in the kitchen, and it stirred, made a noise, and moved its tail in a friendly way. "All right, Sherry," Horace said as he passed. "All you had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love." The safe was in the drawing room behind a rather poor painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books, but they took up too much room. In a small house, books were better. There was a great ball of flowers on the table, and Horace felt his nose tickle, and he gave a little sneeze and then put down his bag. He carefully arranged his tools. He had 4 hours before the servants' return. The safe was not going to be hard to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. The burglar alarm was poorly built. He went into the hall to cut his wire. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. How foolish people are when they own valuable things, Horace thought. A magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and a picture of this room. The writer had even mentioned that the painting had hide a safe. But Horace found that the flowers were hindering him in his work. He buried his face in his handkerchief. So here pounds means basic monetary unit of the UK, that is equal to 100 pence. And autumn is the season after summer and before winter in the northern hemisphere from September to November, and in the southern hemisphere it is March to May. And stirred means move or cause to move slightly. Tickle is in a way that cause my discomfort or itching, or and often laughter means something discomfort or itching. Sneeze, as you all know, that is due to the irritation of one's nostril. Burglar is a person who commits theft. Hindering means making it difficult for to do something or for to do happen. So here, according to Horace, there were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grant's safe, and he thought that even if he sold them one by one, he would get at least 5,000 pounds, but that would keep him happy and content for 1 year. And he also thought about the 3 books that were coming up in the autumn, and thought that now he would have the money needed to buy those books. And he saw the housekeeper of the Grange hang the keys on the hook outside the kitchen door, and he took the key with a glove on his hand so as not to leave any fingerprints. He opened the door of Grange and used to be very careful about the fingerprints. And he then saw a small dog sleeping in the kitchen, and the dog moved a bit, made a noise, and then moved his tail in a friendly way. Horace then said that, "All right, Sherry," which was the name of the dog, and he knew that the trick to keep the dogs quiet was to call them by their names and show them a bit of love. And the safe of the Grange was in the drawing room, hidden behind a painting. Looking at the painting, he thought that he should collect paintings rather than the books, but then thought that it would be better to collect books in a small house because pictures required larger space. Then, as he moved forward, he saw a bowl of flowers on the table, and his nose was tickling due to the hay fever and the smell of the flowers. He arranged his tools and saw that he had about 4 hours until the housekeeper's return, and the safe would not be have been difficult to open as he had lived with safes and locks all his life. And the system of the house was not a good one, and he went into the hall to cut the wires of the system. He again sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again, and he was thinking to himself that how foolish rich people were when they had valuable things, as he recalled that the whole plan of the house, including the information about the safe, was given in the magazine. And he saw that the smell of the flowers was constantly making him sneeze loudly, So he put a handkerchief on his face and continued his work. So let's move to the next paragraph. Then he heard a voice say that from the doorway, "What is it, a cold or a hay fever?" Before he could think, Horace said, "Hay fever," and found himself sneezing again. The voice went on, "You can cure it with a special treatment, you know. If you find out just what plant gives you the disease, I think you would better see a doctor if you are serious about your work. I heard you from the top of the house just now." It was quite kindly voice, but one with firmness in it. A woman was standing in the doorway and Sherry was rubbing against her. She was young, quite pretty, and was dressed in red. She walked to the fireplace and then straightened the ornaments there. "Down, Sherry," she said. "Anyone would think I had been away for a month." She smiled at Horace and went on. "However, I came back just in time, though I didn't expect to meet a burglar." Horace had some hope because she seemed to be amused at meeting him. He might avoid trouble if he treated her the right way. He replied, "I didn't expect to meet one of the family." She nodded. "I see what an inconvenience it is for you to meet me. What are you going to do?" Horace said, "My first thought was to run." "Of course, you could do that. But I would telephone the police and tell them all about you. That had get you at once." So Horace said, "I would, of course, cut the telephone wires first," and then he hesitated, a smile on his face, "and I would make sure that you could do nothing for some time. A few hours would be enough." She looked at him seriously. "You would hurt me?" Horace paused and then said, "I think I was trying to frighten you when I said that." "You didn't frighten me," Horace suggested. "It would be nice if you would forget you ever saw me. Let me go." The voice was suddenly sharp. "Why should I? You are going to rob me. If I let you go, you will only rob someone else. Society must be protected from men like you." So Horace smiled. "I'm not a man who threatens society. I steal only from those who have a lot of money. I steal for a very good reason, and I hate the thought of a prison." She laughed, and he begged, thinking that he had persuaded her. "Look, I have no right to ask you for anything, but I am desperate. Let me go, and I promise never to do this kind of things again. I really mean it." She was silent, watching him closely. Then she said, "You are really afraid of going to prison, aren't you?" She came over to him, shaking her head. "I have always liked the wrong kind of people." See, here doorway is the entrance of the room or a building. Ornaments is the things which looks more attractive, usually having no practical purpose, or we can say attractive objects. Amused means finding something funny or entertaining. Hesitated means pause in indecision before saying or doing something. Frightened means make afraid someone. Persuaded means induced to do something through reasoning or having argument. See, here then somebody from the doorway asked him that it was a cold or was it a hay fever. So then Horace quickly replied that hay fever. He don't know that who was there, and sneezed again. The other person then continued and told him that he could cure it provided he knew which flower caused the allergy, and he should see a doctor if he wanted to be a good thief. Then the other person said that his sneezing could be heard from top of the floor of the house. The voice was calm and firm. Then he got a bit nervous and he saw a woman standing in the doorway. And the woman was young, pretty, and dressed in red color. She walked towards him and arranged the decorations kept on the fireplace. Then she ordered the dog to stay away and said that people might be thinking that she was away for a month, but she was back in time and didn't expect a person to welcome her back at her house like Horace. And Horace was a bit hopeful as he saw that the woman was amused rather than being panicked on seeing the person in the house. And he thought that if he treated her well and didn't do anything wrong, and then she might let him go. He also told her amusingly that he also didn't expect to meet a family member either, as he had thought that there was no one at home. Then she said that she realized what an inconvenience she was to him and asked him that what would he do now. Then Horace replied that at first he wanted to run away, and then women replied that he could do so, but he would call the police and let them know that he was robbing her house and they would catch him. And then he replied that he would obviously cut the telephone wires and then he would do something to her so she was not able to do anything for a few hours. And then she looked at him seriously and asked him that would he hurt her. Then Horace replied that he was just saying that to frighten her and she was not frightened by what he said. And Horace then told her that it would be better that she forgot that she ever saw him and let him go. Then suddenly she spoke in a sharp and loud voice that why should she let him go? He was there to rob her, and if she spared him he would do and rob someone else. And then she said that the society needed to be protected from people like you. And then he smiled and said that he was not a threat to the society and he stole only for those people who had lot of money, and also he stole for a good reason and he hated even the thought of going to a prison. Then she laughed at his reply and he was begging her that not to call the police, and Horace was begging only because he thought that he had convinced her to let him go, and he was desperately asking the woman not to call the police and that he would surely stop robbing people. And he also promised her that told her he meant what he said. She then looked closely towards him and asked him that he was really afraid of going to the prison. And then she shook her head and said that she always liked the wrong kind of people. So here this was an indication of for the Horace that she was also a thief and he did not pick the clue. So and then within an hour Horace had opened the safe, given her the jewels and gone happily away. Sorry guys, we have to take this paragraph instead of the next page. She picked up a silver box from the table and took a cigarette from it. Horace, eager to please her and seeing that she might help him, took off his gloves and gave her his cigarette lighter. You will let me go? He held the lighter towards her. Yes, but only if you will do something for me. Anything you say. Before we left for London, I promised my husband to take my jewels to our bank, but I left them here in the safe. I want to wear them to a party tonight, so I came down to get them. But Horace smiled. You have forgotten the numbers to open the safe, haven't you? Yes, replied the young lady. Just leave it to me and you will have them within an hour. But I will have to break your safe. Don't worry about that. My husband won't be here for a month, and I will have the safe mended by that time. And within an hour, Horace had opened the safe, given her the jewels, and gone happily away. For 2 days he kept his promise to the kind young lady. On the morning of the third day, however, he thought of the books he wanted and he knew he would have to look for another safe, but he never got the chance to begin his plan. And by noon, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery at Shotover Grange. His fingerprints for he had opened the safe without gloves were all over the room, and no one believed him that he said that the wife of the owner of the house had asked him to open the safe for her. The wife herself, a grey-haired, sharp-tongued woman of 60, said that the story was nonsense. Horace is now the assistant librarian in the prison, and he often thinks of the charming, clever young lady who was in the same profession as he was and who tricked him, and he gets very angry when anyone talks about honor among thieves. So, see the twist in the last. First, see the meanings. Mended means repair. Charming is very pleasant or attractive. Sharp tongue means given to using very harsh words or the critical language. Honor means highly respected or great esteem. So here the woman picked up a cigarette box made of silver and took out a cigarette, and then Horace thought that if he pleased her and she might help him, so he quickly removed his gloves and gave her his cigarette lighter. Then he asked her that he would let him go and pointed the lighter towards her cigarette. This is the things the women want that he would take off his gloves. So then he asked her that he would let him go and pointed the lighter towards her cigarette, and she replied that yes, she would let him go, but only if he would do something that she wanted. Then Horace quickly replied that he would do anything for her, and the lady said that before going to London, she had promised her husband that he would put all the jewelry in the bank, and but left in the safe at the Grange, and he had to go to a party now, but had forgotten the code of the locker, and she just forgotten the code of the locker. And Horace said that he would do, but he would have to break the safe, to which she replied that she need not to worry about that, as her husband won't return in a month's time, and then she would get it repaired by then. Then Horace broke the safe, opened it within an hour, gave her the jewels, and left happily thinking that he was safe now. Then for 2 days he kept his promise to the lady, and he won't steal, but on the third day he thought about the books that he wanted to buy and started thinking that he would have to look for another locker to steal from, and he couldn't even get the time to plan the next robbery as he was arrested. A police officer came to his house and arrested him, as his fingerprints were all over the Shotover Grange, and no one believed him that he said that the owner's wife had asked him to open the safe, and the actual wife of the owner was an old woman who was 60 years old and was a sharp-tongued woman. She said that the story was nonsense because she had never met Horace, not to think of asking him to break open the safe. This means that the young woman who had asked Horace to open the safe had pretended to be an owner's wife, and she was a thief. Then Horace became the assistant librarian at the jail and thought about the woman who being from the same profession, tricked him and got him caught, and she felt really angry when someone talked about honor among thieves. So this was the story written by Victor Canning. I hope it will helpful for you guys. Thanks for watching. Like, share and subscribe my channel. Bye.